everyone, and welcome back to another Train Sim World 3 news video. This is a Q&A recap. I've got about 90% of the questions and just quick notes I've written down whilst they've been going along, talking about, the answers and stuff, the questions and answers. So, well, I suppose let's get straight into it. I've left out the really sort of obvious questions, which we already probably all know here. So yeah, just sort of the main questions. So first one is, why upgrade to Train Sim World 3? Why make a completely new game? So one of the reasons was for decoupling routes and locos, because apparently it can't be easily done for Train Sim World 2 and some of the platforms. It wasn't easy to do. So for example, that would be like not owning East Coastway and wanting to buy the class 313, because at the moment you have to own East Coastway to get the 313, whereas on Train Sim World 3 they've sort of uncoupled it, so now you don't need to own East Coastway to get the 313 if you just want the 313 for the Brighton mainline services, and they've done that through Training Centre, and that's sort of one of the new things about Train Sim World 3, decoupling routes and locos and using the Training Centre as sort of the main hub. And also to get ahead of the achievements issue, as there was the whole achievement max limit, which was all pretty set in PlayStation, so useless Sony being useless as usual. And then how will Train Sim World 3 run? As a lot of people were quite concerned about the the RTX, or whatever it's called, PC technical bits, being an RTX 3070 as the recommended settings on PC, which a lot of people, even myself, were like, oh wow, am I not going to be able to run Train Sim World on the PC anymore? But no, apparently it should be, near enough the same as how it does run at the moment on your own personal systems. Should be only a very minor change, so maybe a few FPS drops in, a few new areas, but it should near enough be the same. And the only reason they have updated the specs is to be more in line with modern graphics cards, because I think on the original one it was like a GTX. It was just I think it was one you can't buy anymore. So they've sort of just updated it to make it more sort of in the now. And then there was the Steam Deck question: will it be playable on the Steam Deck? And yes, playable and runs fine. And there's only a few minor visual issues, but apart from that, it works fine. Because I believe there's 3 settings for Steam Deck. There's like not playable, playable, and verified. Train Sim World 3, just like Train Sim World 2, will be playable. So it's not going to be perfect, but it's playable and runs alright with a few minor issues. And then you've got a question which came up about 8th gen. How's it going to run on 8th gen? It will run differently. But that will be in lower graphical settings. So if you compare the next gen version, which is near enough the PC version, and if you go back to the last gen version, there's quite a difference in sort of the graphics and the render distance and stuff like that. So it'll run differently, but just in lower settings to the other ones. So yeah, lower graphical settings, and volumetric clouds will have a slightly what was the word? Slightly lower definition, I think it was, so they won't look as good, and also less layers on 8th gen, so how Train Sim World 2 is. Then there was a question which came up about the save game, because the save game did get disabled, which was, a bit sort of, a very long route. I mean, say Cajon Pass, for example, 85 miles long, probably takes about 2-3 hours to get from one side to the other. If you can't save your game, if you need to go off and pop off and do something, that's not great. So the answer to that was it was temporarily disabled. Situation isn't great, as we just mentioned. There's longer routes coming, but it needs to be fixed. And there'll be a new team put together, which will look exactly. We'll look at how it works exactly, and also it does need a focus. It needs a focus of attention towards getting that sorted. So for now it's disabled, although a new team will be coming in and trying to sort that. And also, why is it completely shut off? It's quite broken, not always obvious until much later on. So you might, save the game, go back in, it will be alright for about half an hour, and then towards the end of the service, it will be like, whoa, not happening, red lights everywhere. Personally, I've never had the issue. I've maybe once, but yeah. So progress transfer. So this is like for moving your Train Sim World 2 profile over to your Train Sim World 3 one. So nothing really different on that, although they have had positive news on PS4, PS5, Xbox Series and Xbox One tests. Apparently it's been quite positive. And the sort of way it will do this is it will, when you load up Train Sim World 3, it will sort of find Train Sim World 2 profiles, I guess, within your data, and then upload it to Train Sim World 3, or possibly actually through Dovetail Live. And then the Preservation Crew, because the Preservation Crew aren't going to be the Preservation Crew anymore. So they're pretty much going to be rebranded and expanded. So they'll still be looking into the legacy routes, so Train Sim World 2 routes, although more critical issues are now a priority, which pretty much means for any new DLC, they'll be trying to update that as soon as possible, because quite a lot of the routes, Brighton Mainline for example, which is, Reigate Station, we've all discussed Reigate before, it's been 10 months and it still just isn't finished. So pretty much what the Preservation Crew will be doing now is, they'll be updating routes much quicker, the newer routes much quicker, and sort of hitting stuff as it comes out. And also what they do, they look after the third party people, and also they built the training centre, and also they're looking at how they can improve and expand it in future. So pretty much to wrap up the Preservation Crew, it's been rebranded and expanded. And then why aren't Train Sim World 2 routes getting Train Sim World 3 features? Obviously apart from Spirit of Steam, we know that's getting the changes. So big job converting routes. The lighting changes are very technical, and the Preservation Crew don't really have, I think Matt was saying, don't really have the skill set for that. It needs a lighting technician for that, which it would just take a very long time. It's a huge job, not practical, although you do get the dynamic weather, and that's because it is part of the menu UI and sort of part of the core, so that's why dynamic weather will be on the other routes. But I do hope they do the rush hour routes, or at least the most played routes. I do hope they do update the features onto them, so maybe it was only the top 5 routes or something. So Brighton Mainline would be on there. Will Train Sim World 3, or just the rush hour routes, will Train Sim World 3 have improved optimization? And Matt said expect a similar performance to Train Sim World 2. And will the new route length be standard? So will future DLCs be 80 or so miles each instead of the sort of standard at the moment, 50? And it's more experience over length. So a bit like the Isle of Wight, it's 8 miles long, but then it's a really sort of fun and enjoyable experience. And the only reason why they've sort of done a long route is because a high speed route, a bit like LGV, you sort of speed up then slow down straight away. So a high speed route sort of has to be long. So that's why Castle Wurzburg is about 118 miles long. And then the US route was simply 85 miles from one end to the other. But yeah, experience over length. So don't expect there to be, every DLC will be 80 miles or so. Is there a new length a new sort of maximum to how much miles you can do on a route? And that hasn't changed. Train length, no big changes coming anytime soon. So that's with the US freight trains. On last gen, it's limited to 100. Or next gen, it's 200. No, is it 50? I can't remember now. 50 or no? I think it's 100 then 200, isn't it? Something like that. No, it is 50 then 100, I think. But yeah, there's still the same restraints to it. How big the trains are. After buying a Train Sim World 2 preserved route, will you still get it in Train Sim World 3 after release? And the answer is yes. So if you went and brought, Train Sim World 2 Rusty Old Nord after Train Sim World 3 releases, you'll still get it on Train Sim World 3 if you've got Train Sim World 3. Are Train Sim World 2 DLCs needed to be installed again? And the answer is yes, which is going to be a massive download. Are things being done to attract more third-party developers? And the answer to that is yes. They're trying to make the tools more accessible, and apparently there are several partners waiting to come on board, so that is very exciting news. Although Just Trains were the most recent one, which was back in December. So I guess, it's quite a slow process. Have all 3 routes been made in-house? So that's Wurzburg Castle, South Eastern High Speed, Cajon Pass. Have they all been sort of made within Dovetail Towers? So, is it just Dovetail Games working on them? I know they have used a few outsourced for most routes, so Rivet helped with Southeastern, TSG helped with the German route, someone else was helping with the US audio, and also Armstrong Powerhouse provided the Class 375 and Class 66 sounds. So will we see the Pringles competition continue into Train Sim World 3? And the answer is yes, the winner will appear at some point. Dynamic billboards, there's still a thing on PC for Train Sim World 3. And also, how will trophies work? Which again is literally all just down to Sony, I believe. Sony just being idiots. So, 14 core achievements for the game. So yeah, just 14 achievements for the game. Every route will have 3 achievements, and every preserved route will have 3 achievements. And yeah, point fingers at Sony. I think they're the ones with the achievement limit. It's stupid. And then yeah, to future proof. So yeah, are the trophies future proof? Well, it pushes the bar even further into the future, allowing Sony more time to expand how many trophies you can get for games. So yeah, and will Train Sim World 2 core routes count towards the PS5 limit? And the answer is yes. No, I shouldn't say core routes, but yeah, Train Sim World 2 DLC, which you download onto Train Sim World 3, will have an impact on the limit, and there still will be the 64GB limit for a short period of time until they fix it. Does Southeastern High Speed Extension open the door for more extensions? And the answer what Matt gave was no more so than before. Next question, will popular Train Sim World routes not get any further improvement or DLC? And the reason was, well, there's no reason not for them to get. I mean, it's like the Brighton Main Line, that could get the 700 or the 455. There's still going to be DLC for the old routes. Rail driver compatibility, yes, all Train Sim World 3 trains have rail driver compatibility. Will adhesion physics be improved? And Matt said yes, a few of them have been. How will layers work with training centre decoupling? How will layers work with training centre? I'm trying to. It's quite late. I'm trying to. I've read that question a bit funny. Layers work with training centre decoupling. I put technically possible and no plans, not sure. On a side note, the BR185 has had massive upgrades because that's going to be included with Kassel Wurzburg for the freight runs. That's had massive upgrades. And also you'll be able to use the upgraded BR185 on older routes as well. So you'd be able to run it on Rystilg Nord, Main Spessartbahn, etc. What tutorials will be included in the training centre? So this is just a sort of small example list. So you get all loco tutorials, extra tutorials about US braking, etc. Basic HUD tutorials, so look up, left, down, right, whatever. More advanced tutorials like signalling tutorials, LZB, AFB, TVM 430. And they've also done a tutorial on dark signals, which will be on the German route. Will the training centre have its own timetable? And the answer for this is yes. And why are they using US English? And the answer was because it's more internationally used. Next question. Has rain been improved? Rain pretty much still looks the same, apart from you get the new splashes. Any draw distance upgrades? And the answer to that was no, just the same as before. Train Sim World 2 trains will run exactly the same on Train Sim World 2 routes, although running a Train Sim World 2 train on a Train Sim World 3 route will be slightly more peculiar, because, well, without the sort of thing Dovetail have done, you wouldn't see the headlights or cab lights. So what it's going to do, I guess whatever the technical bits, the magic, it's going to estimate how it would look, so it won't be sort of a hand drawn headlight range or whatever. So yeah, if you run a Train Sim World 2 train on, so say if you ran the the 377 on Southeastern High Speed, the headlights probably won't look as good as what the 375 headlights look like, because on the 375, as it's been upgraded for Train Sim World 3, it's sort of been all hand done, whereas the 377, if you ran it on a Train Sim World 3, the headlights will sort of be randomly generated. That's sort of how they look, as Train Sim World 3 is like 1,000 times brighter, which sort of hurts my eyes. Is dynamic weather random or set to time? And it's random, so it will be different patterns. It won't all just be every 10 minutes it changes. Is it possible to have live weather? The answer to that was no, which I do hope we do see in future. Can weather be set in Scenario Planner? And note, there's been no updates to Scenario Planner, only the user interface. Is dynamic weather in Spawn on foot? Yes. Will the new lighting have a toggle on or off option for sort of anyone with what's it called? I can't remember what it's called now. Epilepsy, I think it's called. I know there won't be any on-off options. Have the Southeastern high-speed trains been updated? The Class 465 hasn't been changed. The 395 has been tweaked. The 375 is now at the same standard as the Brighton Mainline 377, and the 66 has whole new sounds. And I believe Dadrail's actually helped out with some of that as well. So brilliant. Has the Southeastern timetable been changed? And yes, you've got a Joe Burgess / James, who I'm pretty certain James is Mole Man. Timetable based on the 2019 timetable, so it'll be busy, much busier, as opposed to the current Southeastern timetable. Is there any new German freight wagons? And yes, there are the Kajil wagons. No idea what they are, but yeah, Kajil wagons I think it is. Does the ES44C4 have new sounds? And yes, it does have new sounds, different from the ES44 AC on Horseshoe Curve. Apparently they've never been used before, the sounds, so looking forward to that. A few just sort of really quick questions. Any container loading at San Bernardino Yard? No. Any rail tours on Southeastern High Speed? Yes. Will there be a Nintendo Switch version? No. Any passenger behaviour updates? No. HDR updates? No. Ebula? No concrete plans for sort of anything yet. HUD improvements, only a small change. What is new and improved on Spirit of Steam? The lighting. Will updated Spirit of Steam be available during early access? Yes. Will the updated BR185, which we've already touched on, sub onto other routes? Yes. And that was really all of the questions there, sort of the main sort of standout questions. Well, probably about 90% of them. But yeah, what did you think from the Q&A? I will leave a link below to the Q&A if you do want to watch it yourself, get all of 100% of the questions. But yeah, what do you think? Do put your thoughts in the comments below. But that is it from me. Links can be found in the usual places: Discord, PayPal, merch store, and I hopefully will see you next time. See you all. Take care. Bye, guys.